Majority of the people do not understand the Souls game design within the context of cheesing and gatekeeping, and what these terms actually refer to in discussions. Let's say you're trying to beat a boss in Elden Ring, and say, "Wow, I really enjoyed this boss fight, it was really fun to play." And someone else says, "Well, your win is not legit because you have used summons, whereas you should have used a melee weapon, preferably solo." Now, this person does not understand what they're talking about, trying to feel a sense of superiority by telling you that your way of playing is inferior. What I'm going to explain in this video is the other half of the coin. Let's say you're trying to beat a boss in Elden Ring and say, "I don't quite understand this game. On some level, I enjoy the combat on Elden Ring, but on another level, I don't really like this. Previous Souls games had better bosses, overall gameplay, I think. I had actual opportunities to fight the opponent. Something is not clicking with me, it's playable, but I'm not really engaged. I just defeated this boss. I didn't really feel that same sense of satisfaction I felt when I beat Ishin from Sekiro." And someone else says, "Well, your dissatisfaction can be because of the particular experience you're having with your existing build. The way you engage with the combat is affecting your level of satisfaction. Here is my build, here is how I play this boss because I really enjoyed playing like this. Maybe you can try this out to increase your enjoyment, especially when the DLC bosses are right around the corner." Now, you might want to hear what this person has to say. This is not gatekeeping. This person is literally trying to convey his different experience of the game and trying to help you enjoy the game even more. From this perspective, what is cheesing? To win by using a strategy that requires minimal skill and knowledge, or that exploits a glitch or a flaw in game design. Now, the first part of this definition is actually quite subjective. Who decides what is a minimal skill and knowledge to beat a boss in Elden Ring to be considered a cheese? Would using magic and spells be considered cheese, or summoning a mimic tier, or finding a wall glitch that allows you to hit the boss with immunity? Where do we draw the line exactly? It actually all depends on your skill level as a player. What requires minimal skill for me might be a lot of challenge for someone else. See, this argument is completely missing the point. The fact of the matter is Elden Ring is a game that allows for extreme variety of builds. In fact, in the action-focused RPG genre, you won't be finding more mechanically varied game than Elden Ring in terms of pure combat options and build potentials that our player character has. As someone who adores playing God of War Ragnarok, almost everyone is going to have a fairly similar gameplay and combat experience, and that is by design. You are less likely to hear someone say, "Your defeat of the King Berserker in God of War Ragnarok is not legit. You've cheesed him and my build is better." Unless you're overleveled, God of War doesn't provide many ways to cheese the fights. Has nowhere near the same level of build variety as Elden Ring, and build variety being so different is critical to game design as it completely changes the experience that you have. For the sake of simplicity, let's categorize 3 styles of playing. There's way more, of course. You can be in any part of the spectrum of playstyles, and what I'm about to say is going to apply to all playstyles. Do not mistake for a moment that all builds in Elden Ring are having the same experiences. These 3 playstyles correspond to 3 different games: dodge, parry, and magic-focused builds. Just because the moveset of the boss is the same doesn't mean that these 3 playstyles are providing same experiences, let alone similar experiences. And experiences are everything. It is the lens of interpretation. It is what decides how you feel about something, what emotions you experience, how much satisfaction or frustration you feel. The experience indirectly affects interpretations. Elden Ring is not like other games where it has a primary intended combat experience designed by its developers. So it's up to you to figure out what is the most fun and enjoyable way to play Elden Ring. And Miyazaki has purposefully done this and said this in an interview that freedom is how they approached Elden Ring. And by definition, if you haven't been enjoying your time with Elden Ring's combat, then it means you're playing with a build that you do not enjoy. So you should try different ways of playing, different weapons, different ways of interacting with the boss moveset, different levels of aggression and defense, all in the name of maximizing enjoyment. Do not listen to people who say, it doesn't matter what build you play Elden Ring, they're all the same, don't worry about which stats to level up, they're all the same, just play the game whatever feels natural. Now, these people's advice, there may not be ill intent, but blending all builds in Elden Ring into a single phrase like they're all the same, just don't worry about it, is not gonna cut it. When you type Elden Ring combat and bosses on YouTube, you will see so many people echo the same sentiments. They messed up something in Elden Ring, the bosses are overtuned. I was enjoying gameplay way more in Dark Souls 3, Bloodborne and Sekiro. What happened to From Software? It is Miyazaki's fault for making the game the way he did. It's hard in a not fun way. Everything is designed around summons. It's just bad game design. See, some people are not satisfied. You need to check if these assumptions are correct. First, ask yourself if the boss moveset is truly designed around summons. If that was the case, then we would not see such an imbalanced gameplay when someone is summoning a mimic tier. If you feel that way, you need to remember that these were the same complaints people had all the way back in Dark Souls 1. This game is so unfair, it's too hard and frustrating. You expect me to run towards the boss for 5 minutes every time I die? There's nothing new under the sun. The criticisms may appear different, but they arise from the same source. Souls games are difficulty-wise an iterative series. Slowly, each game gets more and more challenging in different ways. It builds upon the previous game. As players get better and better, so does the bosses. Slowly, the combat gets more and more complex, and punish windows get harder and harder to execute, let alone see. And this is a good thing. There's nothing unfair about Elden Ring's bosses on a mechanical level. People are literally destroying these bosses, mastering their movesets to such a degree that they do no-hit runs, rune level 1, and with aggression to boot. If there was a persistent problem of unfairness that plagued Elden Ring's combat, not only people would not be able to do these challenge runs, but I can assure you that it would be patched already by From Software themselves. See, my point is, if you enjoyed Dark Souls 3 combat and if you like Sekiro a lot, then ask yourself, what is it really that different or unfair or problematic in Elden Ring's combat? What makes me not like it as much? Is it that it has more aggressive AI for boss fights? That you don't know when to attack and when to consolidate? Well, you need to learn the pattern of the boss and punish him, just like you had to do for Dark Souls 1, 2, 3, Bloodborne, and Sekiro. This is how these games are played. You analyze the pattern of the boss, figure out where the safe punishes are, and try to execute on those openings. If you don't want to do that, which is fair by the way, and just want to defeat the bosses and explore its open world, utilize hundreds of different weapons, summons, spells, or ashes of war to take on the challenge. It's completely up to you. You've never been given more difficulty options in any Souls game than Elden Ring. You can make Elden Ring absolutely the most challenging Souls game by far, including Sekiro, or you can make it the easiest Souls game, completely depending on your playstyle and build. So if you're one of those people who doesn't like Elden Ring combat while loving Dark Souls 3 and Sekiro, I suggest that you approach the combat in a bit of a different way when the DLC rolls around sometime hopefully in 2024. Remember that you play video games to have an enjoyable experience, and although majority of the responsibility lies on the developers to create a competent experience that is enjoyable, some level of responsibility lies on you as the player to create a memory that you look fondly years later.